Everyone. Hope you're having a good day or night or whenever you're watching this. We're back with part 3. Only 3 more parts to go of the top 25 defenders in the NBA series, where I break down my top 25 defenders in the National Basketball Association, as we tend to do on here. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're on the road to 10K by the end of the year. The support has been amazing. Let's keep it going if you enjoy this kind of content and if you want to see more. And at number 15, parts 1 and 2 are linked in the description, of course, is Alex Caruso, who, if you watched last episode, you know there's a bit of fudging, but the best guard defender, the highest ranked guard on this list. And Caruso really is a special, steal creating defender. He'll, jump passing lanes and just be an absolute menace around the ball. On ball, off ball, it's really difficult to play against Caruso because he closes up windows that are normally open. And let's take a look at this play where Caruso, against most players, right? RJ Barrett is free to throw this entry pass to Scottie Barnes, stealing off Kobe White, who can probably score. But not against Caruso, who is reading RJ Barrett like a book. What you've probably noticed on this top 25, and what you'll continue to notice, especially as we go deeper into the list, is how much of a mental game it is with these elite defenders and these really special processes of the game. What a pass by Caruso. We're going to have a few of those on this video, these preternaturally special passers, and his hands are incredible. He's stripping his old boy LeBron here, guarding in the post. The versatility is crazy. He acted as the Bulls' primary rim protector at times. He would guard on the perimeter, obviously, do one pass away helper stuff like we saw in the first clip. Aside from Derek, he's definitely the most versatile and potent defensive guard in the league. Not only for, the stuff he can do as a rim protector, but he can guard screens, he can guard up, he can guard down, and he's not a perfect on-ball defender. Off-ball is definitely where he makes most of his money. Quick, skilled guys who are even stronger than him can kind of bully him and move him out of the way. But what Caruso lacks in whatever traditional strength or the stuff that Drew Holiday or Jalen Suggs has, he can make up with his crazy hands, his speed, his instincts, and all in all, it makes him just one of the sheer best defenders in the league. Quick note at the end of the play: great job Caruso staying in the play, cutting off Bogdan, just totally wrecking on defense all of the time. It's rare to see guards anchor defenses in the modern NBA like Caruso does. And obviously part of it is because the Bulls are just not a very talented roster and don't have any good defensive bigs. But to see Caruso do what he does as an interior defender, all while guarding Anthony Edwards at the ball, reading his jump pass intention, he is in sync with Anthony Edwards right now. He gets inside of his brain and he steals the pass right there. So all of that makes Caruso a top 15 defender in the league. Wow, that's pretty cool. Let's get to 14, who this is going to be the start of the really elite anchor big tier, and we're going to see a lot of them going forward. This is a really good one. That's Jarrett Allen, who is one of the more underappreciated players in the league to me, partly because of some playoff failures and bright lights, which he has made up for this season, I think, absolutely, and just because he is somewhat overshadowed by his teammate Evan Mobley, which we will get to a good bit later on this list. But Allen is such a mobile 7-footer, can really slide his feet and contain, and is always looking to make plays. Again, we're talking about the feel for the game, the understanding of where people are. Allen doesn't have to look at Jalen Duren to understand that Mobley helped Cade, so Duren's going to be open. He steps up and defends the rim like he does. It's this combination of elite mobility at his size, the processing speed. He's not the most incredible athlete in the entire world, vertically explosively, but again, he's playing drop here, but instantly reads this backdoor cut behind George Niang, who was a human traffic cone for most of the season. Allen here also going to perfectly time up the reverse, his timing on these blocks, his hand placement. This is something that basically all of the elite rim protectors share that we're going to talk about, but Allen is definitely good at them. And yeah, he can do the primary rim protector stuff where he's just sliding down. Max Strus gets beat off the dribble, Franz full head of steam to the rim, hop step, swat him at the apex. Allen is famously not afraid to get dunked on, and I do think that's one of his better traits. It leads to some scary posters at times, but he is ruthlessly aggressive contesting the rim, and that's what you want for your primary rim protectors. And it is, there's clunkiness with the offensive fit, and obviously, we'll talk about this more when we talk about Mobley, but it is such a luxury for the Cavs to not only have those two together, but to me, maybe the even more impactful thing is to always be able to have one of them on the court to anchor your defense. That's a luxury that basically no teams have other than the Cavs and maybe like Boston or something. Allen is maybe not the strongest guy in the entire world defending the post, but look how quickly he gets off the floor, times up that block, despite kind of getting wedged off there and giving up an advantage in the post. Allen can get out-muscled by stronger players who play with more leverage than him generally. Like Sabonis in particular is not a fantastic matchup. And even though he's going to give up some shots when he's isolated onto guards, I'd say he does pretty damn well considering the size mismatch, right? Like he sticks with Cam Thomas, he moves his feet, he can be like a little jumpy and reactive, but he kind of has to be at his size, switched onto guards, and forces a really tough shot that Cam Thomas just happens to make. And I don't think plays like these are like, really the fault of Allen. We saw him defending Paolo one-on-one in the playoffs at times, and Paolo definitely got him, but we saw Allen, like, despite not being a guy whose primary value is defending the ball, he really can defend the ball at a high level in the playoffs when it matters against elite opponents at any given time, right? It's not his primary skill set, but the fact that he can do it along with all of his really incredible center stuff is, to me, what makes him one of the better defenders in the league. And here he is walling off Pascal, getting a block, getting another block here, definitely a impact contest, I'd call it. Allen is really good on those like long rangy fours that like Siakam shaped guys who can't necessarily blow by him, and also can't out-muscle and explode Allen. Allen is really good with these like tricky players because he's very tricky himself. A smart, savvy, fun-loving defender. Shout out Allen because he's a Pokemon guy too. But yeah, anyways, Jared Allen, 14th best defender in the NBA. Let's get to 13, who is one of the greatest defenders of all time, and that's Draymond Green, who maybe has fallen off a tiny bit in the year 2024, but is still one of the league's best defenders. Watching him like fool even the brightest of NBA players will always be a treat. He's playing chess with Tyrese Halliburton right now, jumps at Miles Turner, kind of stunts and shows in the gaps so Hallie feels comfortable bouncing the pocket. But before Halliburton even releases the ball, Draymond is on his way back to steal that and turn it the other way. Like, Draymond Green's brain is a supercomputer, and maybe a supercomputer with some faulty wiring at times, but it is a supercomputer. Nobody processes the game like him that I've ever seen play basketball. I'm, wasn't alive to watch Bill Russell or whoever, but there really aren't guys who read actions as quickly as Draymond. And obviously he was the architect of the dynastic Warriors elite defense for all those years, and for that he deserves all the flowers in the world. Unfortunately, he's kind of a crappy guy, obviously, but again, Draymond, this ball has barely even crossed half court and left Clarkson's hand. Against 90% of defenders, this is a easy conversion to Laurie. Draymond is breaking this up, and that wasn't a very good pass by Clarkson. But my point is less, the actual steal and more just Draymond's ability to read out plays and to be inside defenders' heads. And he's basically, like, Draymond Green broke everyone's brains into thinking that they could play small ball five, but they just couldn't because the only guy who can do it is Draymond Green, who, can just show and help and has the foot speed to recover. Obviously not center height, but incredibly strong, vertically explosive, crazy long wingspan. I think Draymond probably deserves his own video at some point. Like a prospect retrospective could be really fun. And Draymond's always been like a versatile high drop defender, even still is today. Can flip his hips, contest the rim on the move without fouling. One of the great like backpedal contesting defenders of my lifetime, and some of his like blocks are just absolutely violent, like his nature at times, and he can really time these up. His hand placement is perfect, like his ability to not foul on some of these plays where it looks like he should be fouling. Capella's like aggressively holding the ball, and Draymond is pretty easily able to snatch it out of his grip. Like, this is stuff that's never, he has some exchanges some nice words with DeJounte Murray right there, and Draymond, has lost somewhat of a step athletically. He's 34. It's understandable. Like, he's probably not the kind of guy he was, but the old man strength is still there. Like, he can slide with Zion, bump him off of his spot, and force him into a really tough shot. I believe I recall Zion getting him a couple times in this game. But anyways, that's one time where he got Zion. And I think especially when you make Draymond, like, change directions and close out, and we all know that Draymond, especially post-prime, has been prone to, like, conditioning and weight issues at times, but yeah, just like kind of lazy hop here, slow opening his hips and getting back to Paolo and TJD, who's another awesome defender, who knows, maybe he'll make this list one day. TJD saves his ass, but that's a really poor close by Draymond, and I think it is indicative of some of the declining movement skills. And he has a tendency, I think, these days more than maybe he used to just kind of like zone out. He's just going to let Luka sit wide open, catch and shoot a wide open three. He's a little more prone to this than I think he once was, but it's far from anything keeping him from elite, stellar defender status, right? Draymond is... What makes Draymond great? Like, he will lose some of it marginally, right, with the explosion and the speed and stuff, but he's not going to lose his strength. He's not going to lose his length, and most importantly, he's not going to lose his processor. He's not going to lose his brain. And I think, truly, for a guy who doesn't make the smartest off-court decisions, is one of the most brilliant basketball players that I have ever watched. Anyways, that's high praise for the 13th best defender in the league, but that's where we are, folks. It's a really good league. And number 12, we have another really great defender in Jaden McDaniels, who, to me, is the best screen navigator in the league, I feel pretty comfortable saying, and that's a really important skill as teams run screens on almost every play, right? Whether that's an on-ball screen, a double stagger like this, and Jaden has no problem drifting through Nurkic and Bradley Beal, sticking, attaching to Booker. It's his combination to me of, like, agility, speed, omnidirectional. I mean, how many defenders in the league, let alone 6'9" guys, can stay with De'Aaron Fox on his initial explosion downhill and decelerate with him? De'Aaron Fox is deadly when he hits the brakes because of how fast he gets downhill, but McDaniels is flipping his hips, keeping his hands up to not foul. Maybe he gets him on the back a little bit, a little love tap, but McDaniels slows down with Fox, elevates off of a back pedal off 1 foot, and swats his shit at the top of his shot. Like, this is stuff that basically nobody else in the league, aside from, Wemby, Giannis, a couple others who we'll get to on the top of the list, can do. And he didn't have a perfect success rate against Luka in the playoffs. Nobody really can. But McDaniels, despite definitely being outmuscled at times, that's just going to happen when you're 6'9" and kind of frail, but his ability to be physical, change directions, use his overwhelming length and movement skills to bother Luka at times, like, it was definitely a difference maker in that series, even if the Wolves obviously didn't end up winning. Again, we see, like, Luka's going to end up hitting this shot, but Jaden's screen nav is so good, like, sticking here over the lively screen, like, probably shouldn't have gone for that steal, but looks like he was so close to getting it and still is able to recover. And of course the Wolves have built-in stuff here. Gobert playing high up, Conley digging super hard at the nail, and this is not the last Wolf we will see on this list. I'll tell you that for sure. They had the best defense in the league last year, probably outside of Boston, and for good reason. If there are weaknesses you can peg on Jaden, like, he can be kind of over-aggressive at times. We talked about he's not a perfect on-ball defender, right, against the stronger guys. And his, like, deflection, turnover-heavy nature means that sometimes he can get beat. But that's okay when you have, Rudy and Anthony Edwards and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Mike Conley. Like, there might only be one other guy in the top 25 from Minnesota, but they have, like, 5 guys in the top 40. Conley and is an ascending defender. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was the other closest cut to make this list on the Wolves. But anyways, back to Jaden. Just Jamal tries to use some tricks to get him off of him. Jaden does not buy any of it. And, like, his ability to get out of jail, to escape these situations where the defender has his back in his chest, is part of what makes him an elite on-ball defender to me. Like, the fact that he can get out of that, which is so often like a checkmate position that guards can put you in, it makes it really difficult to game plan for him. I mean, McDaniels didn't block as many shots this year as he has in the past. I mean, I think partly because of Gobert, or I'm not exactly sure why, but he still is one of the better weak side rim protecting wings in the league. Just incredible range, instincts, length, and this is something he's honed over time. I have a video on his whole development at some point, or at least I compared it to Taylor Hendricks, but a legit secondary rim protector, and an incredible defensive playmaker. Jaden McDaniels is one of the 2 or 3 best pure perimeter defenders in the league. And I shouldn't even say that because he can obviously defend the basket as we're watching. Obviously, the Wolves defense is built around Rudy Gobert, but McDaniels is a critical second piece. His on-ball versatility, the fact that he can take the best matchup on nights when he's needed to, and that's going to work. He can be your secondary rim protector. He can roam for you. He can do whatever you really need him to do, and that's what makes him a top 15 defender. And the last guy on this list, and the one I was most excited to talk about, the always divisive Joel Embiid, who is the 11th best defender in the NBA. And this is a really hard one because Joel Embiid is a vexing player. This is Joel in April defending and drop against the Hawks. This was a beautiful in-season tournament court. Most of the in-season tournament courts I really didn't like, but this one's great. And these Hawks jerseys are awesome too. But Embiid using his hands, moving his feet, that's a 7'2" guy who's nimble enough to move his feet and drop and hang with Trae Young and react on the fly with some of the best hands in the entire league, regardless of position Joel Embiid has. And then here's Joel Embiid in April, a couple injuries and whatever else down, a total statue against Jalen Brunson in the playoffs. So Embiid at his best, I truly believe this last year and the year before, plays like a defensive player of the year level guy. But obviously Embiid at his worst is slow and and sometimes seemingly uninterested, but mostly just a little slow, out of shape, tired. And I really do think it's obviously part of like the offensive load and the injuries, but it is just kind of, even when Embiid is at his real peak, there are moments when you feel like yeah, he probably could have done more there. But it is remarkable that a guy with an MVP level offensive load can impact the game defensively the way that Embiid does. And even, quote unquote, limping Embiid can explode and cover ground like very few 7-footers in the league can, even after all of his injuries and stuff. And, young Embiid was an even more incredibly gifted, smooth mover, but plants his foot in the ground, sprints, explodes off of 1 foot. That's a beautiful weak side help block on OG Anunoby. Here, this is a crazy play. Embiid meets Giannis at the summit, of course, but look at the fake charge, and he's like, nope, I'm just going to leap off of a back pedal and get a nice block there. I don't know how many players in the league can contest like this. And you can argue this is maybe a foul, on the lower end there, but regardless, it showcases Embiid's ability to still explode and elevate vertically despite being one of the strongest, burliest, toughest to move players in the entire league. I did not mean to speed that one up so much. Apologies. Looking at Embiid, I think this was a November or December game against the Celtics. He's playing at the level and drop, basically, or a little below it. Turns his hips, sprints to open them up, and blocks Derek White on that drive. When Embiid is playing like this, not only dominating at the rim and the post, but also as a versatile pick-and-roll weapon and blocking shots as a weak side guy, look how quick he gets up off the floor, right? Embiid doesn't need time to load, the little quick hop into the elevate, blocks Jaden McDaniels on the mind. When Embiid is playing like this, I think it is depoy level. It's a really good defensive league, as we'll talk about, but this version of Embiid is defensive player of the year level anchor, game changer, and I think for good reason. Again, the explosion off a back pedal, as we've talked about throughout this video, crazy that Embiid can still do this after all of his injuries and everything that's happened. Just moving backwards and drop, sees Hunter go up, explodes, times it up perfectly. It's a mean, violent, no regard for human life type play, and we get those a lot. And of course, Embiid is maybe the best individual post defender in the entire league. Famously has eaten my beautiful boy Miles Turner alive in all of his matchups throughout their career. Just, if you aren't outlier strong like a Giannis type or Jokic, or outlier fast I don't know, a Giannis type or someone like that, right? You probably can't consistently win against Embiid in isolation in the post. And obviously this isn't as common a play type as maybe it once was, but still a very, very nice checkmate to have. It's are you the type of team that plays to the post and relies on your bigs to score? You're probably just not going to do very well against the Sixers. But of course, this is just never as consistent as we want it to be, as Embiid at his best is a legendary basketball player, like a guy who can be MVP level offensive engine and a defensive player of the year guy all at the time. You can count the guys on one hand in league history who are like that. But of course, as with Joel Embiid, and maybe the Sixers are cursed or whatever, at the most important times, most important moments, and a lot of it I think is probably not his fault. With the injuries, some of it his play, I think, even without injuries, has declined in the postseason to just like regular elite level than super MVP. But I think Embiid can be argued much higher on this list. I could also see him being argued lower on this list. So I thought just outside of the top 10 was fair for a guy who at his best is really one of the best, and there's not very many who you can argue over him, to someone who, when you need it most at times, doesn't feel like he's at that. So I don't really know how to value that. This is where I landed at. Let me know what you thought of this episode. The top 10 is up next, and let me know who you think is going to round this list out. So really appreciate everyone watching the video, and hope you have a good day, night, whatever.